Hello and welcome to another video, and this time I'm back with the character guides, and today we're going to be taking a look at one old SSR character. It is not the Entomat I have on the screen. I'm just using her because I don't have the avatar for the character of today, and it's this guy right here, the Black Scripture First Seat, also known as the Captain of the Black Scripture from the Slain Theocracy. And here we have it. As you can see, I don't have this character max. It's not max on stars. His power level is almost 20k combat power, but not 20k yet. And he doesn't have his own arc light yet, which it doesn't look good at all. But uh, believe me, I can give you a guide of this character because it's very, very simple to know how this character goes and how to, upgrade him and boost him until his maximum potential. Now, I'm going to be doing exactly the same that I do with all the other characters. So we're going to be taking a look at almost all the sections on the left. And I'm also going to be talking about the arc lights, as well as, you know, um, recommended teams and compositions to play with this character or around this character. So I'm gonna start with the basic. This character is a ranger. That means that this character is very squishy, very fragile, and we can see the basic attributes that he has: very average physical defense, average speed, and average health. That nowadays, that speed being B is even when on the classifications B is average. Right now with the meta characters and all of that, B is slow. Like is kind of slow, and he's not gonna be playing a lot. And he also has a C on magical defense, which is very, very bad because that makes him very vulnerable to things like area of effect attack, teams, or burn teams, shock teams, things like that. But he has an S on attack. That means that this character is a heavy hitter. We see that this character is based on single target and chase attacks as well as flank. The game never, explicitly tells you what flank is, and I think this is the only character that has that classification. But it's very simple. It's not any like new mechanic or anything like that, or nothing like exclusive of this character. But we're gonna be looking at that in a moment when we get to the skill section. Now, on the accessories, we can see that he gains 10% critical chance at tier level 3, 10% attack at tier 6, and 15% critical damage at tier level 9, which is really nice. And this is basically the average for all the rangers on the game. Most rangers give you exactly these stats, so it's not bad at all. This character will naturally have 10% crit just with the accessories. Now, the skills. As you can see here, I don't have this character level up. Like the ultimate is just level 2 out of 5. The first skill is level 1. The passive skill is level 4 out of 5, and the basic attack is level 1. But it's very simple to see how this character works, and this is enough for me to, tell you how this character works, what is good, what is bad of him. And later on the next video about this character, you're gonna be seeing it on, the practical way. So now, starting with the basic attack, this character just basically deals normal damage, and if you have the skill at level 4, instead of just doing 100% attack as damage, does 115% and will gain 1 stack of the God King Heritage if he achieves a critical hit. And that can go up to 120% attack. For being a basic attack, again, this is very, very average, nothing really special. And now we're gonna go up to the God King Heritage, the passive skill. This character naturally has increased critical chance all the way up to 25% at level 4, and I think it's just like 15% when you have this level 1. But you can get to 25%, and also his critical damage gets increased by this passive skill by 20%. And he will gain 1 stack of God King Heritage whenever an ally launches a chase on the enemies. And what is the God King Heritage? It's a stack that increases the critical damage by 4%, or at max level increases it by 6% for per stack. That means if you look at this part right here on the left, that tells you that it can be stacked up to 10 times. You can either have a total of max stacks of 40% increased critical damage, or 60% increased critical damage, depending on the level of the skill, which is really nice. Like at max, number of stacks, having 60% extra critical damage, that is wild. That is the first thing we see on this character that is really good. Like the passive skill gives multiple benefits, gives critical chance, critical damage, and stacks that can increase the critical damage even more. So if we combine the max amount of critical damage that this character can get with the passive, it will be 60% from the 10 stacks of the God King Heritage, plus the 20% from this section right here. That means that this character will be able to have an increased critical damage of 80% just with this skill if he gets to play, enough and, gets 10 stacks of God King Heritage. That is the first thing that we see that is not average on him and that is really, really good. And that is basically like half the character, honestly, or at least half the mechanics of the character. Now, the next skill, the Tempest Assault, the first active skill, it's a normal attack that deals damage equal to 140% attack as damage, and that can go all the way to 170, which is a little bit good, not that much. But if he achieves a critical hit, the attack will trigger one extra hit that deals different amounts of damage. It will start at 60% of attack as damage, can go all the way to 80% of the character attack as damage to the enemy, and can be triggered up 3 times per action. What does this mean? Well, if this character goes in, attacks, and in the first hit launches a critical hit, he will attack again. And if that, is also a critical hit, can be up to 3 times. That means that at this level, this skill can be either a 1-hit skill or a 4-hit skill. And if this character is 6 stars, that means it will be a 5-hit skill. So if this character, gets lucky enough or you have the stats for it to always crit, you can make this skill a 5-hit attack on a single target, hopefully, killing him. And then we have the the max level upgrade here. At level 5, if you use this skill, it will have a 100% basic chance to reduce the target to meter by 15%. But that is on the extra hit. And yes, this is stackable. That means that if you land a critical hit on the enemy and activate the bonus of this part of this section of the skill, and you hit it again, you're gonna be constantly, reducing the enemy's turn meter. And if you use this skill on something like a healer or a ranger, something really important for the enemy composition, or a boss, for example, you can really delay the turn of the enemy while at the same time doing a ton of damage to that enemy as well. And then we get to the ultimate, the Flash Strike. Deals damage equal to 220% of attack, that can go all the way up to 260% of attack. That is really nice. It's exactly the same damage that SSR Entomat does without the crit. And not only that, this attack nullifies support and shield wall effects. If you don't know what that is, shield wall is, for example, what what SSR Cicita or Shiso does. Also, what SR Yuri, the original Yuri, or the guy from the Slain Theocracy with the 2 shields. That is the shield wall. When you're gonna attack one enemy and the tank gets in the way and intercepts your attack, and the tank receives the attack instead of the original target. And support is what, for example, Tank Kokiotos, Valkyrie Shaltear, or for example, uh, the Death Knight second skill does. That when you attack someone, part of the damage that that enemy in particular receives gets redirected to the character that is providing the support. Like if you're facing a team that has Valkyrie Shelter and Pestonia, for example, and you want to attack Pestonia, normally part of the damage that will go originally to Pestonia is gonna get redirected to Valkyrie Shelter. Well, this skill nullifies that, so all of your damage instantly goes to the target that you were originally meant to attack, and nothing gets redirected to the enemy tank. And also, hitting grants 100% basic chance to inflict buff block for 2 rounds. And buff block is this thing right here, a debuff that prevents the infliction of buffs. For example, uh, all of the players on this game know what Indomitable is, right? When you're about to kill someone, that character has Indomitable, or someone on their team can give Indomitable. Indomitable prevents them from being killed and keeps them alive at one point of health for one entire round. Well, that is a buff that activates, upon the target receiving lethal damage. If you inflict something like this buff block on the enemy, like for example, you inflict that on Shelter, on Idle Shelter, and there is Kokiotos on the team that can give Indomitable to Shelter, and you use this character to use the ultimate and inflict the buff block on that Shelter, one stack of buff block is gonna get nullified by one stack of any buff that the target receives. That, for example, in this case, Shelter will not get the Indomitable buff because buff block will, avoid that, will prevent Shelter from gaining a buff. This is really, really good against teams with multiple buffs, like the counter team that abuses the use of shields and counter boost and counter attack boost, and also is really good against teams that abuse basically healing. For example, like all the Renner teams that abuse having the healing plus the regeneration plus the 2 meter boost and all of that. So that is really good. And also for characters like Pandora's Actor, this is the direct counter buff block. That way, either neither Pandora's Actor or his allies can get the buffs. And at max level, the ultimate also gives you a 100% basic chance to inflict Isolate. And Isolate is a debuff that negates the effects of support and shield wall. So you can use this to isolate one target, so during the next attacks of this character or your other characters on the team, you can freely attack that one enemy in particular without having to worry about the support or shield wall effects. So this is a heavy inclined character to do critical damage. Like the more critical damage he does, the better, because it will mean the extra hits for him, as well as the extra damage because of the passive and the extra stacks that he's gonna get. So here on the awakening levels, you can see that I don't have almost anything on him because, well, I don't play with this character, but I can recommend you some things, and it's something like this, like what I have here on my Entoma. The first gem, that is also the one that you get at level 20. I will recommend you this, the energy gem attack, because that character has S on attack. Is his best basic stat or basic attribute. So if you can upgrade his best attribute in percentage, like you can see here, is way better than doing it for, like, for example, here on a plain amount of damage. It's way better to do 2.5% more damage on a character that has 3000 attack than increasing it by 30. So I will recommend you that for both level 1, sorry, the gem at level 5 and 20. And then this one, the mighty gem, I will recommend you this one, the critical damage one, because that will combine with the second skill as well as the passive skill and the stacks of the God King heritage. And if you don't have the mighty gem critical damage, I will recommend you instead to use the mighty gem critical chance. This one that increases, the chance of doing critical hits. But that will depend on your relics. That is going to be the next section. If you can, guarantee the critical damage of your, the critical hits of your character with the relics, then put critical damage on the awakening section. But if you cannot guarantee the critical hits with the runes, go here on the awakening section and put critical chance. Or you can do both. Like this first one, put critical chance, and then the level 25 you put critical damage, so you cover both. Now the rare gem, the one that you get at level 15, I would recommend you either get the one that increases the attack or the one that increases the speed, because the character has beyond speed. It's not really good on that, but that doesn't mean that is the worst stat of the character. Can be upgraded, yes. Will I recommend you to upgrade speed? Yes, because nowadays you're gonna be facing a lot of Shizus, a lot of Zeshys, a lot of Robohamuskes, and all of those characters have S on speed. So you're gonna be having trouble to even have, some of the first turns of the game. Because mostly all the time the enemies are gonna be either stunning you with those characters that I told you, or they're gonna be stealing your speed, or reducing your turn meter boost. So you need speed. And finally, for the power gem, the class gems that you get at max level of awakening, I will recommend you the one that is specialized for the rangers. Let me show you right here, and it's this one right here, the one that gives assistance rate or assist rate. What is assist rate? Well, it's a percentage that if it gets activated, your character is gonna attack using basic attacks out of his turn during the attack of one ally. So, for example, if I have here Entoma and then the captain of the Black Scripture on the same team, and I do an attack with Entoma and the captain has assist rate and activates, he will have a chance to jump after Entoma and attack the enemy that Entoma attack and do extra damage. So I will recommend you that one the most. If you don't have that, just put one that increases the attack because it's the captain best attribute. And in case that the captain doesn't do a critical hit because you don't have enough critical chance, or because you're facing something like Robo Hamuske that reduces your critical chance, and you get the bad luck that one of his hits doesn't land as a critical hit, well, you still have a high attack on the character, so you still do damage. Now, the complicated section now. The relics. What do I recommend you for the relics? The first thing that I will recommend you is this: the termination set. Termination set is basically the best you can give to this character. But if you don't like this option or you already use all your termination sets, I will recommend you the Vermare one. Let me show you where it is. Here. Vermare set gives you this special effect that it gives you critical chance from 10 to 15%, and you gain 40% chance with the Sparkle set to reduce the skill cooldown by 1 round after using a skill. And that means that you can use something like the ultimate skill, and after using the ultimate, if the Vermare set activates, you will have 1 round reduced, so you can use your ultimate, more often than usual. And you can, make use of those debuffs from the character, or you just land a heavy hit more often than the enemy will expect. But in the case that you want to go with my first recommendation, that is the Termination set, this is the effect. The Termination set gives you all the way from 10 to 15% critical chance and the special effect of nullifying 30% of the target defense. That is incredibly good because you will have a character that does a lot of critical hits, that is based on doing as much critical damage as possible, and then you add on top of that can ignore or can avoid his damage being redirected for the enemy tanks via sharing or shield wall, and then you add that he can nullify 30% of the enemy defense. You can have a character that may have the potential to one-shot other rangers or even mages, or maybe even some priests or healers, mostly the ones that don't have S on health, like maybe Pandora's Actor, for example. So that will be why I recommend you the Termination set, because you will have a character that does a lot of critical damage, and you can add the possibility of nullifying part of the enemy defense. That will not only allow him for a potential one-shot or maybe two-shot to some enemies, but also gives him the possibility of actually damaging the really, really powerful tanks, especially the tanks that are incredibly good against physical damage, like Tank Albedo or Robohamuske, for example. Now, the stats or the sub-attributes on the relics, what do I recommend? I recommend a little bit of what you see on screen, but not exactly with the ratings that you see on the screen. Like, for example, here, Termination Mask. What do I have on him? S on critical damage, S on effect precision, B on critical damage resistance, and B on critical chance. Here we can ignore the critical damage resistance. Why do I have critical damage, critical chance, and effect precision here? Well, critical damage and critical chance is incredibly good, these two right here, because it plays into the entire character skill set. The basic attack gives him stacks if he lands a crit, so you want critical chance. The passive skill increases your critical chance and your critical damage, as well as the stacks, so you want more critical damage. Your first active skill does more damage, more attacks if you land crit, so you add more crit. And you can put special debuffs on the enemies if you have a little bit of effect precision for the ultimate. So you have a little bit of effect precision right here like this, having 20% effect precision on just one relic and one sub-attribute, that is enough, to have a little bit of extra help to land those buff blocks or that isolate debuff on the enemies. Now, what do I have here on Termination Armor? I have a more critical chance, more critical damage, a little bit of magical defense, and effect resistance. That is really just what I got out of luck, not exactly what I would recommend you. And here on the Warrior Sword you see more critical chance, more critical damage, speed, and critical damage resistance. Here the important are the first three ones, and the other one can be ignored. And here on the Termination base, what do I have here? I have health, damage boost, critical chance, not critical damage, and effect resistance. From here, the useful things are critical chance and damage boost, because damage boost increases your damage on all kinds or types of damage. That includes the critical damage, and chance because you need it. Considering that most of what he has is ratings with A and B, I'm gonna show you two more examples with better ratings of what I would recommend you to have on the character. The first one is here on my pretty little Entoma, and you can see here this is a way better example. S on speed and S on crit. That will be incredibly good if the captain had that. Here, this is also another really good. A on attack, S on physical defense, S on speed, and B on critical chance. Here, for example, double A on critical chance and critical damage while having an S on attack. And here, for example, not an S, but you have triple A with damage boost, speed, effect resistance, and attack. And the other example here is my Metal Bed right here. And you can see she's more focused on critical chance and speed here. Here is more critical chance, attack, and effect precision, just like I told you for the ultimate of the captain. Here, a little bit of speed and a good amount of critical chance and damage boost, and the base has nice critical chance, decent speed, and a lot of attack. Those will be my recommendations for the captain. If you were to, let me find the captain, here it is. If you were to have like a priority tier list of sub-attributes to upgrade on this guy, I will say your number one priority on the sub-attributes for the relics is critical chance. Your second one is critical damage. Your third one is having speed. And your fourth one, you can decide between effect precision or attack. And I want to tell you why. We saw that with the accessory levels, this character gets 10% critical chance. So that's 10 out of 100. It's okay. That's 10. If you max the passive skill, you gain 25 more. That means that if we add those 25 extra, you have 35% critical chance by nature on this character. 35. Then we add Determination or Vermare set. 35 plus 15. What is that? Is 50% critical chance just with that. So you only need 50% critical chance on your relics. You only need that, and that is really easy to get for the rangers. You see here I have 82.9% critical chance, but in reality I have the 100%, and I'm gonna tell you why. The extra critical chance from the skill and the God King Heritage does not count directly on the character stats. Like, I in reality have over 100% here, but this section right here just doesn't show up. That for some reason doesn't get added here. It's like the extra 30% that Entoma gets when she uses her passive skill. When SSR Entoma fights, every time she uses her passive, she gains 10% more critical chance and more critical damage. But she doesn't have that counting on her stats because she gains that during battle. Well, this guy is similar. He doesn't gain the critical chance by doing something in particular, but when he spawns, when the match starts, he gains that 20%, that 25% from his passive skill. So you have always in mind that 25% is not going to show here on the battle attributes. But now that I clarify that, you only need 50% on your relics. And you can even help yourself a little bit with the awakening level gems that give you easily 4% extra. So you just need 50% critical chance, then you can focus a lot on critical damage, and after that you focus on either speed, so your character doesn't fall behind when it's facing high speed characters or characters that low your speed like Mare or Zesshy, and then after that you can either choose more attack, or you can choose other stats that you may need. Like for example, other people may like to have speed because speed health, so their characters don't die that easily and so. But I would recommend you critical chance, your priority number one, critical damage, your number two, and then your number three is gonna be speed, and the fourth could be either attack or effect precision. And now let me show you where I think it's here. Uh, the exclusive arc light of the captain. If I do ever find it, here it is. It's in the name of the Black Scripture. His exclusive effect is that increases damage dealt to targets with sharing by 20% when he attacks them, and killing with the ultimate will reduce the cooldown of all the skills by 1 round. And this arc light gives him flat amounts of attack, HP, and 9% critical damage. At 1 star and max stars, it gives you 18% critical damage. And the extra damage to targets with sharing starts as 20% and max stars is 40%. This is very niche, I will say, because the exclusive effect of doing extra damage to targets uh, with sharing is in very specific teams. Like it's not gonna work all the time. It's only gonna work against very very specific teams that use tank Kokutos, that use Valkyrie Shelter, or that use something like, for example, Robo Hambuske. So you're not gonna be using that all the time. And the 1 round reduce from all of his kills if he kills with ultimate. That is nice. It's like Zesshy passive, or one of his effects on the passive, that when she kills with a chase, she will reduce 1 round of all of her cooldowns. Now, if you don't have the arc light, you can use this one for a cheap, alternative that I have run here. The winning strike gives him critical chance, attack, and health on flat amounts, and gives the general effect that each critical hit has a 100% fixed chance. That means that it's guaranteed to trigger burn, bleed, or shock randomly on the target with a cooldown of 2 rounds. And if the enemy does not have any burn, bleed, or shock, this character and this arclet immediately are gonna put one random debuff from those three and trigger it. So this will allow you not only to have a little bit of extra chance, but to do a little bit of damage every time this character, does that. But if you're wondering, on the multi-hit attack from the first active skill, the one that does extra attacks if he crits, you cannot abuse this and trigger multiple effects. You only do it for the first crit, then the cooldown activates. And if you don't like that and you want other options, one of the other options that I will recommend you is this Terribly Sorry. Increases the attack and the health on flat amounts and gives you critical damage. And the general effect that this character will enter stealth, that basically will make the character untargetable, that the character becomes invisible and the enemy cannot attack him aside of area of effect attacks, and reduces the damage taken by 20%. But taking damage breaks the stealth. So this character will enter stealth for 1 round as soon as they, enter on the battle and taking the first action, and increases the critical chance by a certain amount depending on the stars in the action where this stealth is, cancelled or destroyed with a cooldown of 1 round. This I would recommend it mostly because it will help you to do more critical damage and will help you to achieve the 100% critical chance if you for some reason struggle to get the 50% that you needed, and that's it. It's a decent cheap alternative. Then you have this one, Picnic, that is also really really good for this character. Gives you attack, health, and critical chance, but the general effect is that each critical hit allows active skills to deal extra damage equal to certain amount of percentage of the attack based on the stars of the arc light. In my case, 2 stars is equal to 19.2% of attack as extra damage. And considering this character is both with S on attack and based on do a lot of critical damage, and critical hits, that means that you constantly are using this extra damage of the attack from the arc light on the enemies. So you're constantly dealing extra damage to everyone. That is the main one I would recommend you if you don't have the exclusive arc light of the character. And yeah, that will be like my recommendation for the arc light. Boost morale is really good, but you cannot rely on that because it needs your character to do assist, chase, or counters, and this character is doesn't have any natural chase, counter, or assist rate. Even when this arc light gives you a little bit of assist rate, is little. So I will not recommend you that one. But you can use any of those arc lights that I told you. And the reason why I was like shitting on this character a little bit at the start, saying that most of his attributes and so are, average, is because the only way to get this character is through the martial arts contest. That means the multiplayer. You can either buy his, shots here from the store until you get him, and once you get him, you can buy more shards of him to upgrade his stars, or you just play the arena, play this one, the one on the left where the merge is, and at the end of the season, depending on your positioning and your rank, you can get some shards of him. This is not a character that you can get normally on the summons or that has a specific banner. No. If you want his arc light and if you want this character, you need to play the multiplayer, specifically for the character. If you want the arc light, you necessarily need to dismantle enough arc lights to get enough to buy his own, because cannot be it cannot be obtained by summoning. And that's why I'm shitting on this character a little bit, because even when it has good things, mostly related to the critical chance and critical damage, the way of obtaining it is tedious, is slow, and a little bit consuming. For what you get, it's not entirely worth it. Like there are way better critical damage rangers, but some may be harder to get, others may be easier. It depends on a little bit of your luck and your timing on the game. But if I were to rank this character from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, it will be literally 6. Like, it has one really good thing that is a lot of potential for a really high critical damage, but that's everything. It doesn't matter if this character has a ton of critical damage and potential if you're facing enemies that are gonna be faster than him, that are gonna be tankier than him, and that are gonna be really, really powerful to the point that either they can one-shot him as much as he can one-shot them, like Zesshy against this character, or that they are able to nullify this character in one move before he plays and his potential gets wasted. Like, for example, what? You can use something like Nigredo or Mate Albedo to destroy this guy. Like, they are all rangers. But Nigredo has better speed than this guy, so she will play first all the time. And you can use Nigredo ultimate to silence this guy, and this guy's silence cannot do almost anything because his basic attack is kind of bad. It's average, almost bad. And cannot do a lot of damage, while Nigredo will be throwing the ultimate, silencing him, doing critical damage, boosting herself and the turn meter and all of that. Or you can use Maid Albedo in the case that this guy already has some Godkin heritage, and use her tornado to dispel his buffs, and she will do more damage because this guy will have no buffs or will have less than her. And she will gain assist rate, and she will be able to help their teammates on their turns and so, and this guy cannot do any of that. So this guy is really powerful when he gets to play. The problem is to get him to play, because a lot of characters will be either silencing him, stunning him, or playing before him, things like that. So his one-shot potential gets, overshadowed by his weaknesses. Of course, you can use other teams to compensate. You can use something like Anniversary Albedo to assure that this guy is going to be alive for a while so he can attack. But you can do the same with that Albedo, with Zesshy, or with Entoma, or with, Maid Albedo, and all of those characters, and you will get the same result, maybe even better, because of the natural stats that they have and their skill set. But this guy was one of the original characters of the game. He was from the very start, and you could get it on the arena mode and all of that. And he was the pioneer on the SSR category to, kind of counter or punish the compositions and the characters that use shield wall and that use, you know, um, sharing. And then SSR Entoma came, or Nigredo as well, she came as well. And those characters do what this guy does, but better. Now, uh, well, and those characters also, what it is called. They also are really good against shield wall. That basically shield wall forces the enemy to focus their allies. I have to correct before I say that shield wall is what the Dead Knight second skill does. No, is what the ultimate of the Dead Knight does. I just remember that. But anyway, I I will classify these characters as 6 out of 10. It's really good when you can play him, but you will have a lot of problems before you can play him. Now, for the themes and compositions, for that I will recommend you first of all a critical damage team. What is a critical damage team? Well, it's this. Is using this albedo because she can give a lot of buffs. She heals, she shields, she gives critical resistance, she gives effect resistance, she gives indomitable, debuff immunity, she gives invulnerability, debuff immunity, high tier effect resistance boost. She gives all of that, and also she gives high tier critical damage boost, an increase of 45% of critical damage. Just by that, you already know why she's really good with that character. And also you have the invulnerabilities and turn mirror that she gives, so that's incredibly good. You're basically, she's an incredibly good buffer against range, well, not only against but also with rangers, so that's why. Then this Musket, mostly because of the passive and the ultimate. The passive is gonna defend everyone because she's gonna give extra defense to everyone and so, but the important part here is this one. When an ally damage skill is used, it deals additional true damage, that means damage that bypasses the defenses, equal to 75% of Hamuski's defense. And she is a character based all around defense, so she will give a lot of damage. And then, because of the boom cannon, the boom cannon gives high tier damage taken down to the allies and high tier defense boost that increases the defense by 40%. But more importantly, it decreases the enemy physical defense by 40%. So the enemy, and she has S on speed, so she will play before the captain. So you will use this to weaken the enemy defense, and then because the enemies will have 40% less defense from what's remaining, the captain is gonna be basically nullifying 30%. And then you can add something like victim. Victim just to add area of effect damage to the team, to weaken them with multiple debuffs like stun and relic destruction, so you have a little bit of mass control, you have a little bit of stun to the enemies. And then the passive, the important part here that will make synergy is that all of his allies will get damage, well, they will get attack converted from 8% of the reduction portion of victim health and plus 12% of his own attack. So the more health and attack that victim has, the more attack that he's gonna give to all of his allies, including that guy. So that will be my first recommendation, the critical damage team. So that's to, boost him all as much as you can so he becomes really, really powerful. The other option I will have will be like a Russian team that will have a little bit of, synergy with Chase as well. Includes Zesshy. She's really speedy, so she will play first. She will hit really hard, and not only she hits hard, but she always chases the enemies. So remember that the captain gets one stack of the God King heritage every time one ally chases. And because she chases all the time, she's gonna get the captain most of his stacks. And you also have lore accurate synergy because she and the captain like spare together. They, practice their fights and all that. Even when Seshi wins all the time. Even on the game. So it will be her, it will be Pestonia right here, because Pestonia is able to give a lot of turn meter boost as well as healing and purifying skills, and she provides a little bit of control to the team because she gives the ability to her allies to silence the enemies. And not only that, but she can restore with her arc light part of the cooldown of the skills of the allies. You can use Pestonia properly, you can reduce 1 or 2 rounds of the cooldown skill of the ultimate skill of either the captain or Zesshy, the one that you prefer. And then you add one tank, like it could be Hamuski again to maximize damage, or you can use something like Shelter, Valkyrie Shelter, to provide tankiness to the captain and Zesshy so they don't die because, you know, they're squishy rangers, and Shelter can provide damage sharing. And her second skill is able to not only throw back the enemy turn meter, but reduce their defense by 30%. And she also provides a little bit of lifesteal to the team, so you can, you know, increase the survivability of your team. If you don't like the rushing team or the critical damage team, you can go for a chase synergy team that will include characters like Zesshy, that will also include characters like the original Aura and the original Momon, this guy right here, and this Guardian right here. And why? Well, that will be because every time one ally chases, the captain gets one stack of God King Heritage. Aura chases a ton and does a lot of critical damage. Momon chases a ton when his second skill is active. Not only that, but he's able to do like guaranteed critical hits that nullify 75% of the target defense. He can clean up the enemies when they're low on HP when he uses the ultimate, because if he kills someone with ultimate, he will gain extra hits to the next target, and if he kills the next, he can go to the next one and the next one, and so. Zesshy, for the reasons that I told you, and then you can use any tank that you prefer to either increase their damage or to their survivability. Like Tank Cocytus could be really good there because he will be able to give counter, counter rate, the possibility of countering the enemy attacks to Momon, to Aura, and to the captain, because he increases it by 20%. And not only that, increases the counter damage by 20% as well. And Momon already has natural counter chance as well as Aura. The only one that doesn't have it is the captain. But that's, you know, not that much important because you will have energy of counter with the other characters. And it mostly will be to give the captain a shield so he survives, and the possibility that if the enemies do a ton of damage to kill him, he will be alive because of the Indomitable from Cocytus. So you can have a team that does chases to weaken the enemy, you know, like you use Aura or the tank to attack, and then Momon will chase, or you use Momon turn to attack, and then Aura will chase, things like that. And after that, after every chase, the captain is gonna get a lot of, you know, the God King Heritage stacks, and with all of those stacks, you basically increase his critical damage a ton before he even plays. So by the time he plays, he will have a ton, like four or more of his stacks, and he will be able to easily kill one enemy, you know, with the ultimate, something like that. He will be able to kill a ranger or a mage, something similar. If you don't like that, you know, neither the critical damage team or the chase team or the rush team, you can go for a buffers team. Buffers team includes the Salvedo for the same reasons as before, you know, the critical damage, the vulnerabilities and all that. Then you go Pandora's Actor, because Pandora's Actor is gonna be able to give any of all the buffs that you're seeing on screen. Anything of those. He can give multiple of those at the same time as well. So by any weakness that the captain may have, Pandora's Actor may be able to cover it, and then you add any tank that you want. You could add Cocytus, you could add Shaltiar for survivability, you could add Albedo for control to the enemy, so the enemies do not play when they want. You could add Hamuske, so Hamuske increases everyone's physical defense and their damage. You could also add, let me see other tanks that are viable here. Shasuryu, so he controls the enemies. Or you could add the PDL, because the PDL is gonna be able to put a barrier that is gonna basically stall time. The defense is not that good, but it will buy you 1 or 2 turns, something like that, for the captain to get his cooldowns back and might be able to do a ton of damage. That is a composition that has only one damage dealer, that will be the captain, but he will be so buffed by Pandora's Actor and Albedo and protected enough time for the PDL that, well, first for Albedo, with her invulnerability and all that, so he will not be in risk for a long time. And even when Albedo cannot protect him, and let's say that you already use all the cooldowns of this guy, he's still gonna be able to carry a little bit, because when he doesn't have the cooldowns, you just use the ultimate of the PDL to buy some time. You will buy 1 or 2 rounds, and that will be able to get him either the Tempest Assault or the Flash Strike, that is the ultimate skill. And with that, you will be basically playing very slowly, but you're gonna be killing the enemies very, very nicely. And not only that, uh, aside of that, you could maybe, try to play Eclair as one of the healers on the teams that I told you, because not only he heals, a decent amount, but he's able to give assistance rate up. He's 20%. He gives 20%. You can combine that with the relics or the awakening levels, and with that, with awakening levels and their class gem, you will be able to have this character do assist attacks. And finally, to finish this, the section that I forgot. I went to the relic section and I forgot about that part. That's my bad, because I used to know my order. Now I don't do it anymore. My recommendations for the enhancements. The first one is this punch for punch. I'm using Entoma because she has the perfect enhancements for me to show you the example of what will be the best recommendation for me to that character. Punch for punch increases your critical chance, and from level 6 to 10, not only the critical chance but also the damage boost. That is incredibly good, plays into the best attributes of the character. The same for Unstoppable, that gives you critical damage. And from level 6 to 10, aside of critical damage, also gives you assistance rate up. That will play with the Awakening level class gem, and that will play with, for example, the synergy that I told you with Eclair. And also, critical damage scales and, combines with everything of this character. Literally everything. Then I would recommend you Blade Round. Why? Because it gives attack in plain amounts from level 1 to 5, but from level 6 to 10, increases your attack in flat amounts and also in percentage. It's incredibly, incredibly good. In case your character does not, crit for some reason or another, you can still do it. You can still do a ton of damage. And then I will recommend you Thunder Surge. You can combine that character with others that do shock damage, like the PDL that I told you on one of the compositions, the last one that I told you, because he can put shock on the enemy, and the Thunder Surge enhancement gives you the chance that if the target has shock, the target takes 10% increased critical damage at level 1. That can increase to 20 or 32 or 46% or 60% with increased 20% critical chance. Try to get like level 3, so it's 32%. So you use the PDL to put shock on one enemy, and then this guy will be able to do a ton of critical damage that also this enhancement is going to increase by 32%. Like, it will be the same focus as the relics, the sub attributes. Increase the critical chance, the critical damage, then you can increase the normal attack, and then other things, what the Thunder Surge. And you will get double effect, because the critical damage enhancement will also give you damage boost. The critical damage enhancement will give you assistance rate, or assistance up. And then the critical chance enhancement will give you damage boost, while the attack enhancement will give you both flat and percentage amounts of attack. And then Thunder Surge, more critical chance against targets with a shock. This is another example that I have to show you. Punch for punch and Unstoppable to level 6, and then whatever you need. In this case, for Albedo it will be Hot Pursuit. For that guy will be Thunder Surge. So focus on that. Everything about that character is critical chance, critical damage. After that is up to whatever you need or whatever you want, where I will personally recommend you speed, and after the speed, get whatever you think it's necessary. Like, it could be effect precision, or it could be plain attack. In my case, if I were to max the character, it will be critical chance, critical damage, speed, and then a mix of effect precision and attack. Now, that will be everything for the theoretical guide of this character. But later on, I'm gonna publish another video about this character, and I'm gonna do the practical guide. And the practical guide is that I go to the arena mode to the multiplayer, and I use the compositions that I just told you with the exact same things that I told you. Like, I'm gonna be using the arc lights that I recommended. I'm gonna be using the relics that I recommended. The the accessories that you saw at the same level that I told you. Well, I didn't tell you any level. I told you the upgrades, but you're gonna get it anyway. And I'm gonna show you some combats with this character at level 46, like it is right now, so you can see his damage at this, power level. And then I'm gonna show you other combats where this character is like level 60 or level 80, maybe even level 100. But I'm gonna be showing you the compositions that I told you, so you see the synergy. But that is gonna be for the next video of this character, because this video is long enough. So, uh, if you're thinking on leveling up this character, I will tell you, level him up or upgrade him only if you don't have Zesshy, if you don't have neither this Momon or this Albedo, the anniversary, sorry, the Halloween Momon and the limited Nave, or if you don't have neither Maid Albedo or the SSR Entoma, because they do what that guy does, but better. And then if you have Nigredo or you have this Lupus Regina, they're really good substitutes. Lupus Regina is really good substitute because she's really annoying and she will hit like a truck, like this character. But the character is based on crit, and Lupus Regina more on plain damage and bleed. And Nigredo will give you the critical chance or the critical damage that that guy gives. It will be the same performance on critical damage, but Nigredo will allow you more flexibility in your compositions and gives you some tools to control the enemies and extend the control effects on them. So only if you don't have, the good rangers, you don't have Entoma, you don't have Albedo, you don't have Zesshy, Nigredo, or Momon, or you don't have the characters that are based on crit, then yeah, do that and upgrade that guy if you have it. But if you already have at least 2 of the characters that I said, at least you have to, like, I don't know, Momon and Entoma, or you have Albedo and Zesshy, or something like that, then do not upgrade him. Like, you don't need that guy if you have these characters that I told you. You can do it for fun and to have the character max and to play different compositions from time to time, like I do, but only on those cases, because that character is not gonna carry you through the realm of shadows or anything like that. It's good, and with the correct themes and compositions, you can really make that character shine, but he cannot literally he cannot shine more than the other characters, than the other rangers. Those, like for example, the Entomatarium screen, she easily outshines the captain. So yeah, with anything, well, without anything else to say, that will be everything. If you're interested or whatever on the character, just wait like 1 day or something like that for the practical guide to be recorded and published, and then you will be able to see it and decide for yourself and all of that. So thanks for watching, for hearing my awful voice, my bad explanations and all of that, and until the next time. So bye bye.